On June 5th, 2007, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. stood in front of an environmental health summit and said, "Chronic inflammation is the defining health crisis of our time, and the sources are hiding in plain sight." He wasn't exaggerating. Today, nearly 3 in 5 adults have at least one inflammatory condition, and most don't even know the real causes. The World Health Organization calls chronic inflammation the greatest threat to human health and the most significant cause of death in the entire world. Inflammation isn't just something you feel in swollen joints or a bloated gut. It's an underlying cause of heart disease, diabetes, dementia, depression, autoimmune disease, cancer, and fast aging. The prevalence of diseases associated with chronic inflammation is expected to increase significantly over the next 30 years in the United States. Now, here's the surprising truth. The biggest drivers of inflammation often aren't necessarily what you'd think they would be. By the end of this episode, you're going to understand the real root causes of inflammation, the science behind each one, and exactly what you need to do in order to shut off inflammation for good. Welcome to the Dr. Josh Axe Show. So here's what most people get wrong about inflammation. Most people know that inflammation is bad. But let me just say this. Actually, inflammation isn't bad. Too much inflammation is bad. You need inflammation in order to heal and regenerate and repair. So you actually have to have inflammation. So it's not that it's bad, it's that it's too much. Most people think inflammation is just swelling or bloating, but 90% of inflammation happens silently inside of the body, inside of our cells, without any outward symptoms. Inflammation is simply your immune system's emergency response team. When something goes wrong, like an infection, a toxin, an injury, or ongoing stress, your body sends out immune first responders to contain the damage and start repairs. In a healthy body, inflammation works like a smoke alarm. It's loud, it's quick, it's temporary. It alerts the system, the firefighters rush in, the damage is handled, and everything goes quiet again. But with chronic inflammation, which is the real problem, the alarm never shuts off. You know, I remember this was last year, our family, we went on a ski trip to Park City. And our rental house, and by the way, we had a 1-year-old baby at the time, Chelsea and I, our baby, and then we had our 4-year-old, and this alarm went off, and we were there for 7 days, and we had a 4-day period when the alarm went off 30 times, and one time it was on for 2 hours, and this happened at 10 p.m. at night, and it was just, so let me say this, nobody slept well, baby crying. I mean, imagine that. I mean, it going off that much. We were given a full refund afterwards because my sister-in-law sent a very nice email talking about how the experience was. All that being said, this is what's happening in your body. The alarm is going off constantly, and so your body is in this fight or flight, this mode where now you have like these firefighters and they're racing around, blasting hoses at houses that aren't even burning, and they're breaking windows and soaking walls and causing more damage than the fire itself. That's like what's happening in your body with chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation is your immune system attacking itself in certain cases when nothing needs fixing, creating more harm than the original threat. And this, of course, happens very often with autoimmune disease, which is chronic inflammation in a way, over and over and over again, where your body will attack its own tissues like your thyroid, causing Hashimoto's thyroiditis, or your joints, rheumatoid arthritis. Inflammation is more common than most people realize. Most people are inflamed and don't know it because chronic inflammation shows up in unexpected ways like fatigue or brain fog or mood-related issues, stubborn belly fat, poor sleep. Of course, digestive issues is a major one. A slow recovery from illnesses or injuries. You ever notice you get injured, it takes so much longer for you to heal now? Increased food sensitivities. One study published in the medical journal Frontiers in Medicine found that more than 50% of people have elevated inflammatory markers or have been diagnosed with an inflammatory disease, and many people don't even know it. That's because their symptoms, most people have come to believe, are part of normal living. Being tired all the time, being puffy, being moody, being bloated, being stressed. People think that's normal. It's not. Those symptoms are warning signs. There are alarms going off saying, hey, there's a fire here. There's inflammation. We need to fix it. You might think inflammation comes from old injuries and old age, and it does. But that's only on the surface. What actually drives chronic inflammation are invisible misfires in your hormones, poor mitochondrial health, immune system issues, leaky gut. And what I want to do now is go through the top surprising things that cause inflammation and how to start to fix it. Number one is this, and this is a big one: insulin resistance. Blood sugar issues. Insulin resistance isn't only caused by eating too much sugar and carbs. It's about cellular overwhelm. Your cells are so flooded with sugar that these receptor sites on your cells actually get damaged and burnt out. They go deaf. They can't hear anymore. So then sugar stays in your bloodstream and it can't get inside the cell. Here's the thing. Sugar is meant to be inside your cell. Once it gets in your cell, your mitochondria and your cells will take that and turn it into ATP energy. So your body takes sugar, glucose, turns it into energy. But if it doesn't ever get in your cell, your body is like, whoa, there shouldn't be this much sugar here. Your body starts this immune reaction to deal with it. And that causes inflammation in your bloodstream. Well, your bloodstream runs throughout your body, runs to all your organs. So now your entire body is inflamed. According to researchers at UNC Chapel Hill, only about 12% of American adults are metabolically healthy. That means 88% are experiencing some type of metabolic dysfunction, and inflammation is a huge part of that picture. Another study published in the Journal of Diabetes found that people with insulin resistance have a 2 to 3 times higher level of inflammatory cytokine markers, meaning they just have much more inflammation. So think about this. Most people with diabetes have double to triple the levels of inflammation in their body. As I talked about earlier, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has talked about inflammation being the biggest issue today when it comes to chronic illness. And he actually points this out as well, that today we have all these ultra processed foods, and this is what's driving insulin resistance. Is it's a public health crisis because it's driving trillions of dollars of chronic disease of all of these processed foods we're eating. And according to the CDC, 7 in 10 Americans now die from chronic diseases. Many, or really all of these, are inflammation related: heart disease, diabetes, liver disease, and cancer. And this eats up about 90% of our healthcare dollars. Okay. And it's all inflammation. About 60% of U.S. adults live with at least one chronic condition, and 40% have 2 or more, yet our government keeps subsidizing the very foods driving the problem. So the key is this: we have to balance our blood sugar. The way to fix this really quickly is stop eating sugar, stop eating processed carbs, and focus on balancing your blood sugar with diet. The way you do that is more protein, more fiber, moderate healthy fat, but really focus on more protein and fiber. More protein and fiber, less sugar and carbs will help fix your blood sugar issues. And then adding in things like cinnamon, walking more. This is going to solve the problem in a big way, but stay away from the ultra processed foods and the excess carbs that's causing insulin resistance. The number 2 thing that really surprises people when it comes to chronic inflammation is high cortisol. So emotional stress is a major driver of inflammation. What most people don't realize is that stress doesn't just make you tense or irritable. It also changes your immune system. Chronic stress raises C-reactive protein by up to 60%, according to one study in the Journal of American Medical Association. It also causes cortisol dysregulation, which suppresses immune accuracy. And here's another thing. When cortisol goes up, it also causes, the first one we talked about, insulin to go up. Cortisol is supposed to act like a thermostat in your body, keeping your system balanced. But chronic stress breaks the dial. Instead of warning you when things are heating up, it essentially burns the house down, leaving your immune system confused, overreactive, and your immune system just gets exhausted. And today I see we have all of these influencers online pushing this sort of culture of hustle and grind. It's like, and I see this a lot in women especially. It's like women, it's like you have from the moment you wake up to the second you go to bed, your schedule's booked out. It's like many of you are playing mom and career woman and volunteer worker and full-time chauffeur, all of that. And you're going non-stop. That causes cortisol to go up. One of the biggest things that I counsel my patients in that are women and moms, I say, listen, we have to start having a little bit of margin in your day. And here's the first thing. The first thing I do is get pushback. Okay. It's not possible. I had a mom growing up who was diagnosed with breast cancer, hypothyroidism. She had cancer twice. I mean, my mom was sick and tired all the time. My mom had terrible health. And my mom was this mom. She had 3 kids. She worked as a school teacher. And she was just going every second of the day and very stressed. And I go back in time. Here's the thing. I would have rather lived in a smaller house and had less things than my mom get cancer twice and almost die. So I think it all really comes down to priorities. If you want to be healthy, you've got to set aside time and do everything you can. Listen, I'm not talking about, taking 3 days off a week. I'm talking about you have 2 days a week where you get 2 hours, where maybe you go to the gym, maybe you just go for a walk, but you just have some margin in your day here and there where you get to rest and recover or do things you love to do. You got to prioritize. Here's another metaphor to think about. And this is the way Chinese medicine actually sees it. And they believe this is also a big cause of breast cancer. If you're constantly nourishing others and pouring yourself out, but you're not being poured into or nourished yourself, eventually you have nothing to give. Okay. And this is the major cause of breast cancer is that you're giving and giving and giving till you have nothing left. And then you're so depleted that then you get a condition like hypothyroidism or cancer or exhaustion or depression and one of those issues. And so it's critically important that you have some downtime, you have a level of self-care, or this high cortisol is going to drive serious inflammation and burn your body out. Selena Gomez has spoken openly about lupus and how emotional stress worsened her symptoms. The actor Chris Evans has discussed anxiety that manifests physically. Ryan Reynolds has described living with constant fight or flight, and Simone Biles has detailed how chronic stress impacted her immune stress, her digestion, and recovery as an elite athlete. We see this with celebrities, but I see it even more so in stay-at-home moms, working moms, dads that are also working and trying to bring their kids to practice and do everything under the sun. Busyness is a silent killer because it raises cortisol. So the action here is do everything you can to create some margin. Here's an exercise. Write down your biggest priorities in life and then what's absolutely essential for those things, okay? And then I want you to say no to everything else. Get better at saying no. Write down, what do you love to do? What brings you joy? What reduces stress? For me, it's reading novels. It's being part of a men's group and going out and spending time with other guys. It's Chelsea and I going on date nights or family vacations. For me, it's just walking in nature. So write down, but what is it for you? Write down those things. And try and get more of those in your schedule and just more downtime, okay? That's going to be big for cortisol. And another great thing for cortisol is doing some adaptogenic herbs. Could be ashwagandha, could be rhodiola, but those are also helpful. The biggest myth about inflammation and chronic symptoms is that they're all separate issues. In reality, your symptoms behave more like a chain of falling dominoes. When one goes down, it triggers several more, and before you know it, everything feels off. This new test flips the script, and my team knows exactly what to look for. I'm currently offering a simple at-home blood test that actually tests for the right things. Targeted biomarkers that reveal the very first dominoes impacting your hormones, your inflammation, your thyroid, and your metabolism, plus a full hour with one of my senior health advisors to review your results and show you exactly how the Health Institute can help you stop the chain reaction so you can finally heal. If you want to check it out and grab one before they're gone, just go to mybloodwork.com now. I can't wait to help you heal. Number 3 major cause of inflammation is fatty acid imbalance. Too many omega-6s, not enough omega-3s. It's not that fat itself causes inflammation. It's the imbalance in the types of fats we're consuming. Historically, humans ate close to a 1-to-1 ratio, or at the very minimum, a 1-to-4 ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 fats. That balance kept inflammation pathways normalized. Today, the average American consumes an omega-6 to 3 ratio that's closer to 17-to-1, or some studies showing a 25-to-1 ratio. This increase of 25 times more omega-6s is largely due to eating more processed foods and seed oils. High omega-6 intake shifts the body towards increased inflammation. Think of your inflammatory pathways like a car with 2 pedals. Omega-3s are the brake, keeping inflammation controlled. Omega-6s are the gas pedal, activating inflammation when needed. You need both. You actually really need both. A healthy body taps the gas briefly, then hits the brakes. But with a 25-to-1 ratio, it's like you're driving 100 miles per hour with your brakes cut. The system can't slow down, so the inflammation runs hot all the time. You know, these industrialized seed oils weren't even part of the human diet until the early 1900s. Before that, people cooked with butter, tallow, lard, and they used my absolute favorite, extra virgin olive oil. And in certain areas like the islands, they would use coconut oil. But that's all people used. In 1911, Procter & Gamble introduced Crisco, the first industrialized fat made from hydrogenated cottonseed oil. Fast forward today, Americans now get about 20% of all their calories from seed oils. Linoleic acid intake has increased more than 1,000% since 1909. According to Stanford Medicine, cottonseed, soybean, and corn oil are now in over 600,000 packaged foods and ultra-processed foods, which make up 60% of American daily calories. Now, listen, here's what you want to focus on. You want to focus on getting more omega-6s. You're going to do this by eating more wild-caught salmon, mackerel, sardines, anchovies, just more wild-caught fish, and then also getting things like walnuts, flax seeds, and chia seeds in your diet. That's really what you want to focus on. And then now this isn't an omega-3 or a 6, but to not push you too high in omega-6s, use extra virgin olive oil. If you're like, what oil should I use? When in doubt, extra virgin olive oil. The number 4 major driver of inflammation that most people are unaware of is being sedentary. Movement is a natural anti-inflammatory, yet most people are not moving enough. You know, I remember reading this medical journal quite a few years ago, and it said in the journal, sitting is the new smoking. And it's absolutely true. One study found that just 1 hour less of sitting per day lowered inflammation by nearly 24% in women with type 2 diabetes. Think about that. Just sitting one less hour a day, that's walking around the house, it's walking outside, it's just moving more. 24% less inflammation. Some studies suggest that a single brief high-intensity session can lead to immediate changes in blood composition that fight inflammation. For example, in one study, breast cancer survivors were found to have increased cancer-fighting proteins in their blood after, and a lot of times this is get on a treadmill or a spin bike, do an interval session for 10 minutes, and that will make a radical difference in your body. Another study found that resistance exercise at moderate levels 3 times a week significantly lowered CRP levels and inflammation in just 6 weeks. Major changes. So movement is key. And listen, I do think the ideal is a combination of doing some weight training and cardio, but just even walking makes a big difference. And the best time to walk for inflammation, by the way, is around your meals. So you wake up in the morning and you eat breakfast, go for a walk. You're at lunch, even at work, go for a 15 to 20 minute walk. That's all it takes. A 15 to 20 minute walk will make a major difference in your inflammation. The number 5 surprising cause of inflammation is leaky gut and hidden infections. You know, infections don't always make you feel sick, but they keep your immune system stuck in war mode. An example of this, if you have chronic parasites or long COVID or Epstein-Barr, a lot of these viruses sort of stay active, keeping your immune system at war. You know, another thing that I want to mention here is leaky gut. This is also called intestinal permeability. It's not rare. It's very common. I think probably 60+% of people have it. And in people with, for instance, autoimmune disease or chronic joint pain, pretty much everyone has it. According to one study published in the Gastroenterology Review, leaky gut shows up in dozens of conditions, including IBD, IBS, fatty liver, alcoholism, pancreatitis, diabetes, chronic heart failure, kidney disease, and depression. And of course, other digestive issues and food sensitivities. That's a big one. If you have chronic food sensitivities, histamine reactions, autoimmune, those are also connected to leaky gut. Among people with IBS, one study found that around 30% or more of people tested positive for anti-flagellin antibodies, a sign of barrier dysfunction and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And here's how it works. When the gut lining becomes leaky due to inflammation, typically, leaky gut, undigested food particles, toxins, bacterial fragments slip into the bloodstream. This triggers your immune system because your body's like, whoa, gluten is in the bloodstream, casein's in the bloodstream, a parasite's in the bloodstream. We have to get rid of this, okay? So your immune system goes into war mode, and your body reacts as if it's under attack. Your body floods the system with these inflammatory cytokines, which then spreads to your joints, your skin, your brain, your organs, and that's why you develop a chronic health condition. Now, I've noted this before with Justin Bieber's struggle with Lyme disease, and chronic fatigue are examples of immune activation, leaky gut, all the symptoms he was having. This is leaky gut immune reaction due to a Lyme infection and how it was affecting his body. Lyme often turns the immune system into a low-grade alarm where it just doesn't turn off. Almost all infections do this over time. And Justin Bieber said he felt super tired all the time, and he just couldn't understand why. And this is exactly how stealth infections work. They hide beneath the radar. They will infiltrate your organs, places like your liver, and they'll just sit there, causing inflammation over and over and over again. And if you've dealt with something like just fatigue, something out of nowhere, or maybe it came on over the course of a few months, it is oftentimes an infection. It can be mold, it can be a parasite, it can be a virus, it could be a bacteria, but these will cause issues, and they're also connected to leaky gut as well. But those are major causes of inflammation, especially if you are noticing major fatigue. Now, here's another really surprising connection to inflammation: poor exercise form and going beyond your limits. I want to share a personal story that led me down a wrong path. I ended up having this back issue. So I injured my back about 10 years ago while doing CrossFit and just lifting too heavy, doing Olympic lifts. And I ended up herniating 2 discs in my back. Of course, that's major inflammation. And I was never taught properly. I want to share something back in high school. When I was in high school, I had a strength coach who would tell players, including myself, don't let your knees go over your toes, right? So anytime I would squat incorrectly, and I was taught to move incorrectly. So I was just shearing and damaging my joints. It's like driving your car out of alignment. You're just shearing things down. And I had to relearn all of these patterns, but doing things like CrossFit and certain types of exercises, I was damaging myself. I see people in the gym all the time doing stuff like really heavy, and they're in their 20s or 30s. And what they don't realize is when your muscle gives out and you get to the end of a set and you keep going, especially doing really hard jarring lifts or heavy weight, once your muscles weaken, your joint takes on more of that stress. So you're starting to wear the joint down. So both overtraining and incorrect movement patterns will wear your body out and cause major inflammation. So these are repetitive micro injuries, which then lead to local inflammation, which then leads to chronic inflammation. One study looked at this in particular. More than half of regular exercisers, that's 56%, reported getting a sports or exercise injury. And the other thing I see, it's bad movement patterns, which this is why getting a good trainer who really knows what they're doing can help you with the movement patterns and help with doing core work and stabilizing the knee by working your adductors and abductors and those types of things really matter. Most people have really weak glutes and tight hamstrings, and those cause issues, but there are bad movement patterns. The other thing that happens is oftentimes people aren't warming up correctly. It's like, I'm going to go play pickleball, and you just run out there and start playing, and then you get injured doing something like that. So it's really important that you improve your exercise form and you actually train for the thing you're going to do. And so seeing a good physical therapist or a good structural integrative practitioner, like I actually do a bi-weekly Zoom. I have a trainer that I really love in St. Louis. And so he will watch me, and I get together with a couple times a year. And most of my exercises today, or let me say most, half are me doing certain types of therapy for strengthening certain things for longevity. All of my exercise today is longevity-based exercise. I do not exercise. If I have pain, I immediately stop. And I'm training certain things so I don't have pain and I can move functionally. And so rather than me trying to bench press as much as I can like I was in my 20s, I don't do that anymore, okay? You would have seen me when I'm doing, squats today, doing wall sits with a ball between my knees and doing different types of exercise to support and heal my joints. That's what I'm focused on today. And you want to be doing the very same because that will also limit inflammation. The number 7 major root cause of inflammation is this: environmental toxins and alcohol. Environmental toxins like glyphosate, industrial chemicals, pesticides, the chemicals in our plasticware and our cleaning products and our personal care products, they're everywhere. You're exposed to up to 80,000 chemicals if you live in the United States, many of which were never tested thoroughly for safety. The average person has 200 industrial chemicals in their blood. And these chemicals like glyphosate kill off good bacteria in their gut, causing leaky gut and damaging your immune system, which then causes inflammation. And then alcohol is a major contributor to toxin intake. Basically, it overwhelms your liver. So then your liver also can't detoxify and balance out estrogen, that hormone. That causes inflammation. So a lot of issues there. Also, alcohol increases gut permeability. So it causes leaky gut by up to 60%. For the 24 hours after consumption. Toxins clog up your detox pathways, especially we talked about your liver, also causes issues with your gut microbiome. So alcohol has so many downsides. So what I would say is, one, drink filtered water. There's a lot of toxins in your water. So simply getting water that is reverse osmosis, even as just a sink filter, or a Berkey filter, major benefits there. Look at your personal care products. Look at your cleaning products. Next time you buy, just buy the natural stuff. It's pretty easy. The things that are using vinegar and essential oils and those types of things. So make those switches. And then try and stay away from the dirty dozen foods. Buy more organic food whenever you can to stay away from glyphosate. That'll make a big difference. The number 8 driver of chronic inflammation that surprises most people is chronic light exposure. Blue light exposure at night, along with deregulated circadian rhythm, so not getting outside in the morning or just not enough time outside. I mentioned this before a few podcasts ago. The average person today spends 10% of their time outside. 100 years ago, they were spending 70% of their time outside during the day. 70%. I mean, that is a big thing. And it's been shown in studies that if you are not spending time outside, or here's another one, if you're a shift worker where your circadian rhythms are really thrown off, you have much more inflammation, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. So there's this thing of also just going into bed on time, like living in tune with nature the way God created you. So really, when the sun's going down, you go down. When it comes up, you go up and then get outside some and not looking at blue light at night. Now here's why blue light's an issue. Blue light after sunset suppresses melatonin. That's the hormone that signals your immune system to repair and calm and rejuvenate. When melatonin drops and circadian rhythms get disrupted, the body produces more inflammatory cytokines, pushing you towards chronic inflammation and poor metabolic health. So that's what's happening. If melatonin is, by the way, melatonin is so important as a hormone. It is cortisol's opposite. Most people, cortisol is staying up too high, melatonin is too low. We have to shift that back. The biggest lifestyle way you do that is spend more time outdoors. Do not look at blue light at night. That's it. That's how you fix it. Wear blue blockers at night. And then also don't be on your phone or screen, especially 2 hours before bed. Are you interested in functional nutrition tips to burn fat, reduce inflammation, improve your brain and energy levels, and heal naturally? Then I want to encourage you to listen to my friend, Dr. Dave Jocker's podcast, the Functional Nutrition Podcast. This podcast is designed to help you with easy, actionable steps to improve your nutrition and lifestyle, understand your lab work, and address the root cause factors that may be driving up inflammation in your body. Now, I've been friends with Dr. David Jockers for 20 years, and he's truly a world expert in functional nutrition, cellular healing, and so much more. If you want to learn the best nutrition and natural healing tips, tune into the Dr. Jockers Functional Nutrition Podcast on Apple iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you can listen to podcasts worldwide. The number 9 root cause of inflammation that surprises some people is loneliness. One study of over 200 older adults found that people who reported feeling lonely had significantly higher levels of CRP, the key marker of inflammation. Studies show that loneliness is as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, being obese, being physically inactive, and heavy alcohol abuse. That's how bad loneliness is. And so it's so important to cultivate good relationships. I mean, this is something that I am really, it's one of the things that I am probably most conscious of. Am I spending time with quality people where I can encourage and love them? They can encourage and love me. And it's this iron sharpens iron mentality. You know, I have a men's group of some really great guys, 5 other guys. So it's a group of 6. And we're going to go on a ski trip to Park City this year. We'll get together, do a couple trips a year. We meet once a month, read a book together. We do dinners. We get the families together. We do everything we can to build quality relationships. Similar thing. Chelsea and I, we go to church, we have her family and my family we hang out with, but we're really conscious about building good relationships and prioritize that for yourself. Don't go wide on social media, go deep with a group of people. Think about the 5 people you need to spend more time with and a couple other couples. Spend more time with them and also think about how can I add value to them? How can I bless them? How can I improve their life? And when you hang around those 5 people, make sure they're virtuous people, they're encouragers, they're good people that make you better and help you with any type of loneliness and depression. They help bring you out of that. And one other way to fix that is go to your place of worship. Join a growth group at a place like church and go to regular attendance and do those things. That's a great place to meet community. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. once said, "You can't fix a sick society until you fix the root causes." And the same is true for your body. Inflammation is not always your enemy, but a lot of these symptoms we have, it's a message. It's an alarm saying you need to fix what's going on. I want to challenge you with this. Okay, here's some action steps you can take. Identify one root cause of inflammation from today's list that might be affecting you and start to fix it. Think about this. Fix your omega-3 fatty acid ratio. Take an omega-3 supplement. Eat more salmon. Move every hour, just for 5 minutes. Go on more walks. Heal your gut by, drink, here's a great tea, turmeric ginger tea. It's a great tea to drink throughout the day, great for inflammation, reduce your toxic load. These things all add up and make a big difference in your life. And when you can lower inflammation, you're going to unlock more energy. You're going to balance your hormones, have more clarity, more longevity, because healing can happen when the alarm finally goes silent. That's good news. I want to say thanks for tuning in here to the Dr. Josh Ack Show.